Did anyone else have the red playroom at school? I've been reflecting on my childhood. There's a trauma-shaped hole that incessantly niggles away at my mind. I remember deeply disturbing bits and pieces from my time in the red playroom, and that only makes me fear what I've suppressed. I only ask whether any of you had such a room at school because I read something online that seemed eerily reminiscent of my experience. It made me think that my school's perturbing playroom might not have been an isolated anomaly. Unfortunately, I was right. I hosted a few friends at my house this evening, and most of them laughed at my seemingly odd question, but Sarah didn't. Her saucer-eyed face trembled as she nodded slowly. She and I went to different schools, so that only confirmed what I had always feared: the red playroom was not a figment of my imagination. It was more sinister than I thought. And believe me when I tell you that what Sarah and I experienced was already sinister enough. Do you want to talk about it? Sarah asked after the rest of our friends had left. I nodded. It's all I've been able to think about this evening. Who goes first? She gulped. You. Let me summon the courage. At my school, the red playroom was a dreaded place. None of us wanted to play in there. And the teachers never even told us about it. We just happened upon it. Wedged between a storage room and the far wall of the school, there was an inconspicuous door. Did this used to be here? Tim asked, pointing it out during our lunch break. He opened the door to reveal a small box room, 10 by 10 feet, with bright red walls, gray carpet, a tiled ceiling, and horrid, fluorescent lights. There was an assortment of various toys on the floor and the detached hood of a yellow, floral coat. We should go and hand it in to Miss. Stacy chirped up. Tim thumped her in the arm. Snitch. Don't ruin this cool little hideaway by telling the teacher that we're in here. I don't like it, I said. It's too bright. And quiet, Thomason whispered. Good. Tim laughed, bounding into the red room. This can be our hideout. I don't think we should go in there, Stacy said. Well, go away then, Tim snorted, turning to me. Jake? I begrudgingly stepped inside, not wanting to have my cool card revoked. The carpet felt too soft beneath my feet. That's a weird comment to make because I was wearing shoes, but it's the only way I can describe it. Everyone other than Tim seemed frightened. Being the boisterous leader of the group, he had to appear unfazed, but I always wondered whether he secretly felt what I know the rest of us must have felt. We didn't belong there. But that didn't stop Tim from taking us into the red playroom day after day, week after week. We just sat and talked, pretending not to be terrified of the uneven place. Tim said it was a great room for just getting away from people. I think he wanted to seem tough. Tough enough to handle the horror. One day, however, some new toys appeared. Look at this cool thing, Tim laughed, picking up a small ball with a smiley face on it. Buck the Chuckler, its tag says. It's horrible, Thomason shuddered. Nah, he's smiling. He's friendly. Tim smirked, preparing to throw Buck at Thomason. She winced, and Tim cackled, placing the ball back on the floor. I rolled my eyes at her, drawing circles in the air around my ear to indicate what I thought of Tim, and she giggled. What's that one? Stacy asked, pointing at a small figurine on the ground. Tim picked it up, and we gathered around to get a better look. It was a plastic man dressed in a green, hooded raincoat. At that moment, the bell sounded. Come on, I said. Let's go. As we entered the classroom, something caught my attention. Why did you bring that with you, Tim? I sighed. My friend grinned, stroking the figurine. Nobody's gonna miss him. Yes, they will. You're gonna get in trouble, I said. Whatever, Tim shrugged, fiddling with the figure's limbs. Probably gonna chuck it anyway. His arms and legs don't even move. He's not an action figure, dumbass, I said, rolling my eyes. On the way out of the classroom, Tim threw the figurine into the bin, much to my annoyance. I wanted to fish it out and put it back in the red playroom, but our teacher was standing nearby, and I didn't want to incriminate myself. So, I left it. And I wish that had been the end of the story. But the next day, Tim was pale-faced and fidgety. "What's up with you?" Thomason asked. Tim asked, absent-mindedly. "Nothing. Just pulled an all-nighter. Wanna go to the red playroom?" Stacy asked, attempting to sound braver than usual. "Nah, that room's lame," Tim shivered. Yet, when the girls moved out of earshot, my friend leaned over and whispered something unnerving. "I saw the green raincoat man in my room last night." "What are you?" I began, but I was interrupted by the lunch bell. That was when something happened which shattered my town for years to come. As I was walking to the main school building, I noticed that Tim had fallen behind me. When I turned to face him, however, he was nowhere to be seen. Search parties worked tirelessly over the coming weeks, but the boy was never found. That was 15 years ago, and his parents still long for answers. They're never going to get any because nobody would believe the truth. When I ran into the building to seek help, the door to the red playroom was gone, and I started to convince myself that I'd imagined the entire thing. I think Stacy and Thomason did the same. As I say, there are blank spots in my memory, but I'm sure our fear of the room stemmed from things we'd seen and heard in there. Terrors that I've suppressed. I instantly knew the playroom was to blame for Tim's disappearance. And on the final day of primary school, 2 years after Tim's vanishing, I finally had confirmation. I was alone in the corridor, and I heard a creak from the far corner by the storage room. The door to the red playroom had reappeared. And when I tentatively pushed it open, I found myself facing something haunting in the center of the carpet. 2 figurines. The green raincoat man and what looked like a miniaturized version of my best friend. While screaming in disbelief at what had become of Tim, I suddenly found myself in a deeper spiral of horror. The carpet began to tear, and long arms emerged through the floorboards. A life-sized version of the eerie raincoat figurine. The slim man looked at me with a face too smooth and featureless to be real. Like the figurine on the floor, he seemed to be composed of plastic or resin. As his spindly fingers shot towards me, I screeched, fell backwards, and slammed the door on his arm. But his fingers curled around the edge of the door, and I prepared to join Tim. At least he won't be alone in that evil room, I thought, frightfully sobbing. "Jake!" Miss Hall shouted. Hands pressed on the door, I spun to face the frowning teacher in the corridor, and just like that, I realized my mistake. The woodwork vanished from my fingers, and when I turned to face the wall, it was just that, a wall. I've visited the school numerous times over the past 15 years, but the red playroom has never reappeared. Tim is lost forever. After I finished speaking, Sarah's face was completely frozen. "It's okay. You don't have to tell your story," I said. She shook her head. My friend did have a story, but she didn't tell it in words. She told it by slowly pulling a hand out of her pocket. "This is Jennifer," she whispered. Sarah revealed a figurine of a small girl with a yellow, floral coat. I forgot why I boarded this train, and no one can tell me where it's going. Midnight. I just boarded the train. My phone battery is at 92%. The train is cramped, there's hardly any available seats at all, which I hate because now I have to sit next to somebody. I choose the spot on the left side of the guy who looks like he's been ripped from a Western movie. He's already fast asleep, and that's what I'm hoping to be in just a bit. Writing this down because typing helps me unwind. 026, there's just been a loudspeaker announcement. The first one since I boarded, which is kinda weird. Normally, those come up every time a train arrives at or leaves a station, don't they? Anyways, the voice was really strange. All deep and choky. I couldn't understand what the guy was saying at all. I'm having trouble falling asleep. Thought I'd be out like a light in a matter of seconds, so I'm a little disappointed. 051, I forgot how long the train ride is actually going to be. I keep trying to pull up my online ticket on my phone, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. Batteries at 83%. I'm texting with my mom to pass the time. 055, Mom doesn't remember I was going to board this train tonight. I was so sure I told her. She asked me where I was headed and if this was for work or something, and get this, I didn't know what to tell her. I literally don't know. Where even is this train going? Why in the world am I here? I don't know if I'm amused at my own stupidity or if this is something I should be concerned about. I'm not drunk or high or anything. Is this what brain damage looks like? 059. I've been trying to ask around to figure out where the train is going, but nobody's telling me shit. I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. I can't find anything about it online either. Something's very wrong here. The guy next to me still hasn't woken up. Battery's at 67%. It's emptying a lot faster than before. I can't find my charger. I don't know if I even had it with me. 102, I have no luggage. I can't remember packing. I can't remember waiting at the station. What is happening? 125, a new passenger got on. At least she claims she only just boarded now. I actually don't know how because the train didn't stop, she just walked into our wagon. She's shaking and crying and she was looking for a seat. She's not talking to me exactly, she's simply standing in the aisle, rambling and sobbing. 138, I'm crying, too, by now. As loud as the other girl, if not louder. I'm terrified. The train isn't going to stop. I can't get off anymore. I think I get it. I don't want this. I want to get out. I want my mom. God, no. What did I do to deserve this? 156, the guy next to me just woke up. He's been stirring for a while now. I think I'm keeping him awake with my weeping. So I grab him and I go, help me, please for the love of God, help me. And he says there's nothing he can do. He asks for my name and I tell him it's Julie, and he tells me he's Jack. He goes, Julie, you gotta calm down. Either you calm down or you end up getting thrown off the train. You don't want to get thrown off the train. So I ask, what happens when you get thrown off? And he says you'll never get to the final destination, but you can't go back either. I ask if there is a way back and he just shakes his head no. I don't want that to happen. Not to me or anyone, so I start trying to calm down this girl, but it's really difficult. She keeps wailing and thrashing around, and I tell her that I get it because I'm scared, too, but she won't hear it. She literally just hit me, square across the face, so I think I'll stop now. 237, the girl got thrown off. There was train staff, 2 of them, and they grabbed her and just dragged her away. I don't know where to. I tried to follow them, but Jack held me back. He says that I'll lose my internet connection soon, because we're almost there. Arrival is scheduled for 3 a.m., 2:56. I've spent the last couple minutes texting my mom. I tried to call her, too, but it's not letting me. So I sent her a voicemail and she sent one back. She was a little confused because I kept telling her how much I love her. She's up really late for me, and she says she'll go to bed now, so I sent her another goodnight voicemail. I hope she keeps it, for when she misses me. I've listened to hers over and over again, and her voice is as sweet and comforting as always. I have to turn my phone off now. It's nearly dead anyways. Jack is still awake. We're going to the same place, so I guess I'll just keep talking to him. He's very understanding, actually. He's just been on the train longer, so he's had more time to deal with it all. We're both looking forward to getting off the train by now. 10 a.m. This is gonna be really hard to explain. 7 hours ago, I woke up in a hospital room. Some guy T-boned my car and apparently, things were looking dire for me. I was unresponsive. In fact, the medical staff thought I was gone for good. Here's the thing, I found these notes on my phone. The stuff I shared up above. I swear, I don't remember any of this shit. My mom only just got notified of my accident, and she's on her way here. I already went through our chat history, and the texts and voicemails I've been describing. They're there, it's all there. It was all written while I was out cold, doctors fighting for my life. There should have been no way for these notes to come into existence. I can't believe it. I don't know what to make of this. That is, I do know, but the implications are just too much for me right now. I figured I'd post this. I'm gonna sleep some more now and wait for my mom to get here. I can't wait to see her. I'm a high school senior in the small town of Edenfield. Nothing ever happens here except for this one thing that nobody talks about but everybody knows: our school library. See, during the day, it's a pretty standard library, silent, filled with rows and rows of bookshelves and wooden desks. But when the sun goes down, things take a weird turn. I've always been the curious one, eager for an adventure, but this was unlike any adventure I've ever been on. You see, a bunch of my friends dared me to go into the library after sundown. According to the old town legends, the library supposedly becomes an unending maze of bookshelves at night, with ghostly apparitions of former librarians demanding silence. The only way out is supposedly by solving a cryptic riddle hidden in the library's oldest and most forbidden book. So, after the final bell rang, I hid in the janitor's closet until everyone had left. The sun had set and I knew it was time to face the so-called nightmare library. I carefully stepped into the eerie silence, the only sound being the echoing click of my shoes on the cold, hard floor. The once familiar library now seemed alien and hostile. The moment I stepped in, the bookshelves began shifting, stretching, and contorting like some sort of a dark illusion, creating an intimidating labyrinth. The soft whispers of warning from the apparitions began, chilling me to the bone. I started to regret taking up this dare. I was quickly disoriented, trapped, my heart hammering in my chest as the ghostly librarians chased me, their demands for silence growing louder. I stumbled upon the forbidden section of the library, the place holding the book that could be my only salvation. Trembling, I picked up the ancient book, dust particles floating around it like a spectral aura. The riddle was on the first page, written in elegant but ancient script. "What has keys but can't open locks, yet it can unlock your mind?" it read. I was on the clock, the ghostly whispers were now hisses, the apparitions drawing closer. I thought hard, my mind racing through all the possible answers. And then it hit me: a keyboard. A keyboard has keys but can't open locks. But when you use it to write or read, it can unlock your mind. As I spoke the answer aloud, the library seemed to quake, the spectral librarians stopped in their tracks, and the labyrinthine bookshelves began retracting back to their original places. The silence that followed was deafening. A rush of air blew past me, like a collective sigh of relief, and I sprinted towards the entrance, the library returning to its benign, silent self. I escaped the nightmare library, shaken but unharmed. But I won't be taking any more dares about the library, that's for sure. You probably won't believe me, but I had to share this. Because everyone deserves to know about the secrets that our school library holds, the ones that come to life when the sun goes down. Remember, folks, curiosity might not kill the cat, but it sure as hell can scare it. Stay safe. Stay curious. But maybe, stay out of your school library at night. I'm a senior at a rundown public high school in a nondescript Midwest town, where the most exciting thing to happen is the occasional football game win or the rare snow day. Or at least, that's what I thought until we found it. It started innocently enough. My friends and I, Dylan, Macy, and Jake, were doing a project on the history of our school. Macy, who's always been into urban exploration and ghost stories, convinced us to search the old, untouched basement for some tangible pieces of history. We were behind a dilapidated wall when Dylan, the tallest among us, pointed out a faint outline of what looked like a door hidden behind years of peeling paint and grime. We collectively held our breaths as Jake, always carrying a Swiss Army knife, started chipping away at the surface. "Are you guys seeing this?" Jake asked, his voice just above a whisper as he pushed open the creaky door. We all gasped. There, hidden behind the fake wall, was a forgotten classroom. A thick layer of dust blanketed the wooden desks and a decaying blackboard, where the last remnants of chalk notes were barely visible. It felt like stepping back in time. "Look at these," Dylan murmured, holding up a stack of musty, yellowing records he'd found in a rusty file cabinet. They were old-school records, and as we flicked through them, one name stood out consistently: Mr. Herbert Crenshaw. He was evidently a well-respected teacher, but his records abruptly stopped one year. 1957, just ceased to exist. That's when things started getting weird. As we were engrossed in our discovery, the single, dimly flickering light bulb hanging from the ceiling started to sway, casting ominous shadows across the room. A sudden chill swept through, and I could hear soft whispers echoing in the room. "Guys, do you hear that?" I asked, my voice shaking. They all looked up, eyes wide. The whispers seemed to form a phrase, repeating over and over. It was a raspy voice, murmuring, "Stay. Learn. With me." Macy, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly pointed to the far corner of the room. "Look," she said, her voice barely audible. A tall, shadowy figure stood in the corner, its form just barely distinguishable in the dim, flickering light. "I think it's time to go," Dylan said, his voice trembling. But the door we had come through slammed shut before any of us could move. The room was filled with a bone-chilling cold, the whispers became louder, the flickering light bulb shattered, plunging us into darkness. We screamed and fumbled around, trying to find each other, trying to find the door. When the door finally creaked open, we stumbled out, gasping for air. Over the next few days, we did some research. Mr. Crenshaw had been a beloved teacher, known for his dedication to his students. But one day, he had simply vanished. No one knew what happened to him, and the school authorities sealed his classroom, soon forgotten behind the wall in the basement. I'd always thought Serenity was aptly named. It was a peaceful town, with blue skies, sandy beaches, and neighbors who would bring you soup when you were sick. Until the day children started disappearing. The tranquility was broken, and a cloud of dread hung over us. My discovery began with a simple cleaning spree in our musty attic. Tucked away in the shadows, I found it, an old clown doll. Its makeup was faded, yet the ruby red lips and sunken blue eyes seemed oddly vibrant. There was a certain eeriness to it, a creepy grin permanently etched on its face. "What's with the creepy doll, Billy, my friend?" Tommy asked me later that day when he came over. "I found it in the attic." "Weird, huh?" I shrugged. But the strange happenings started that very night. Soft giggles echoed through my room, a faint and chilling circus tune playing in the background. I lay frozen in bed, sweat soaking my sheets. And it wasn't just the sounds, Tommy was the first to disappear. I tried to tell my parents, but they dismissed it as an overactive imagination. So, I turned to the only person who might listen, old Mr. Henderson, the retired detective living at the end of our street. "Billy," he rasped, pushing his glasses up on his crooked nose, "you're saying you hear laughter from the attic?" "And music, circus music," I added, feeling my heart race. We found ourselves in the attic, staring at the clown doll. "This belonged to Pogo, a performer with the Serenity Circus, decades ago," Henderson said, a grim look on his face. "Pogo?" I questioned, shivering as the attic grew cold. Henderson sighed deeply. He was wrongfully accused of a crime. The town ostracized him. In his despair, he ended his life, swearing revenge. The pieces clicked into place. And now he's back, through this doll? Henderson nodded, his face pale. He's pulling the children into a spectral circus realm. We need to put his spirit to rest. The plan was dangerous, but it was all we had. We needed to confront Pogo's spirit, to tell him the truth. We discovered that the real culprit was eventually found, but Pogo had already met his tragic end. We had to let him know that he was innocent. With a vintage music box playing the old Serenity Circus tune, we held the doll between us. I could feel a chill seeping into my bones, the air growing denser. "Pogo," Henderson's voice trembled, "you were innocent. The town, we wronged you." The attic was silent for a moment, the only sound was the soft chiming of the music box. Then, a gust of wind blew, extinguishing the candles around us. "Pogo," I whispered, my voice shaking, "we're sorry. Please, let my friends go." Suddenly, a faint laughter echoed, but this time it wasn't eerie. It was almost relieved. A bright light engulfed the clown doll, and then it was over. The doll lay lifeless, the painted smile seeming more peaceful. The next day, Tommy and the others reappeared, with no memory of where they'd been. Life and serenity returned to normal, but we never forgot the laughing shadows. And we made sure that the tale of Pogo the Clown, his innocence, and his belated justice became a story the town would remember forever.